Welcome to the Bosman Viewing. Today is going to be episode 1 of our new football discussion show, Play On. This is going to be a more raw and uncut section of the Bosman Viewing, where we're just going to pick a topic in football, discuss it, and really just see where the conversation goes. So to start us off, the question we've got for today is, can Scottish clubs compete in Europe? So before answering this, before looking forward, I guess the right thing to do is look back and see, have Scottish clubs ever been able to compete in Europe? So simple answer to that is yes. Now, to be fair, we've got to go back a few years. But starting off, you've got the famous Lisbon Lions. Celtic won the European Cup in 1967, the first British team to do it. So again, very famous win there. And then Rangers went on and they won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1972. Again, an infamous moment in their history. Famous players in amongst that squad. And then Aberdeen as well. In the early 80s, they won the Cup Winners' Cup and the Super Cup, I believe, when Alex Ferguson was a young up-and-coming manager at that time. And to be fair, I'm just going to mention Dundee United. Even though they didn't win a European trophy, they did get to the UEFA Cup final. And I had to look this one up. It was in 1987, and they were able to beat Barcelona on the way to the final. So again, got to mention that. And then fairly recently, I'd say in the 90s and the 2000s, there was some competitive elements from Scottish teams in Europe. Now, to be fair, they didn't win a trophy, but Rangers in 1993, they were one goal away from being in the Champions League final, and they were knocked out by a controversial Marseille side who ultimately found out they were, allegedly, bribing players and referees and teams and owners. So again, they were only one goal away from actually getting to the Champions League final. And then Celtic in 2003, they got to the UEFA Cup final, very close to winning it, losing 3-2 to that Porto side, famous Porto side. That was Mourinho's team that ended up winning the Champions League the next year. So they really, maybe they felt hard done by with the result, but to be fair, that was a strong Porto side. And then Rangers as well got to the UEFA Cup final in 2008. I think that was in Manchester, that final. And they were playing Zenit St. Petersburg. But to be fair, that wasn't Rangers' greatest ever team, but they were able to use their tactics to their advantage and get to that final. And then also just a special mention for Aberdeen. In 2008, they were in the Europa League and they were drawing against Burnley. Premier League team, and it was really close. I had to go to extra time for them. So again, they were competing well above their stature in that one. So yeah, Scottish teams have been competitive to a certain degree. But I do also want to be fair here, there's been some not great results in Europe for Scottish teams as well. So you got to look at both sides here. And there's a few bad results, like Celtic, for example, in 2005. They lost 5-0 to the Slovakian side, Artmedia Bratislava. I think that was Gordon Straka's first game in charge. So yeah, not a great result there. And then Rangers also, they had a bit of an infamous loss as well, losing 2-0 to Progress, a Luxembourg side, in 2017. There's another kind of sprinkle a few other bad ones in there, where Hibs ended up losing 9-0 in aggregate in 2013 to Malmo, and that's the biggest ever defeat for a Scottish side in Europe. And I remember this one when Motherwell in 1995, I can kind of remember this as a kid, where they ended up losing 3-1 to a part-time Finnish side in YPP when Alex McLeish was the manager. So, there is two sides of it. Yes, they have been competitive at some point, but they've also had some pretty bad results sprinkled in there. And you've always got that stereotypical, Scottish teams are the underdogs and they're always up for a fight. They can take on anyone, but, there's a real reason and issue behind the struggles in Europe. And I think most people realise it. It's just the money. It's just the money side of things. Scottish teams and Scottish League just doesn't generate the type of income for them to be able to really compete at the top level in Europe. So I even dived into this and kind of got a comparison here. So I was just talking about Aberdeen against Burnley recently in Europa League, which was a really close game. So if we start looking at the finances and comparing those two teams, so Burnley, for example, their all-time record signing, when I looked this up, was Chris Wood. They ended up paying £15 million for him in 2017. So as a comparison, Aberdeen's all-time record signing is still listed as £1 million when they signed Paul Bernard in 1995. That is still their all-time record signing. And then I took it one step further and started looking at the wages to see, what were the guys getting in these teams. And Burnley's top earner right now, when I was looking at it, is Ben Mee, and he's listed as making $55,000 per week. Aberdeen's top earner right now is Fraser Hornby, who they have on loan, is listed as just making over $7,000 per week. So there's a massive gulf there when it came to just those two teams in general. But again, taking it one step further in Scottish football overall, so it said there Burnley's all-time record signings 15 million in 2017. The all-time Scottish transfer record for the entire country is £12 million when Rangers signed Tore Flo in 2000. That's still the record. So again, it just shows how little money is trickling into the Scottish League for them to be able to try and compete. And there's a famous saying, and you got to agree with it these days, is football is now more like a business than a sport. It's all about making a profit. It's all about making money. So it's the leagues and the teams that have that income that's really going to be where it's at in terms of competing and winning trophies in Europe. And TV money is just not the same in Scottish League as it is in other countries. So the reality is trying to attract players to the Scottish League when you don't have the money to back it up is always going to be difficult, because there's some leagues in Europe that are maybe not seen as that competitive, but you've got, again, just the obvious example is PSG. They have the money that they can attract major players to go there, and Scottish teams that not even the old firm can do that. So, there was a time when Rangers and Celtic did have that sort of income and they could get big names to be playing in, the SPL in Scotland. And that would also help the entire league, because it'd get a good reputation and players would want to go and compete there, go up against the old firm. And if they saw big names going there, as an example, I think it was in the late 90s, the early 2000s, there was a couple of teams outside the old firm, like Dundee is a prime example. Dundee, of all teams, they got Claudio Caniggia and Ravanelli to pull on their shirt and sign for them. And then Hibs in and around at one time, they got Frank Sauzet to come and sign for them. Now, granted, maybe some of these decisions didn't pan out well, long term, money-wise, and how the clubs were being run at that time, but there has been moments when major big names have went to Scotland. So it's just unfortunate at this minute that's just not the case. But ultimately, circling back to the question, what's the discussion for today is, what does the future hold, and can Scottish teams really compete in Europe? And my thinking on it and my thoughts here is, it's really just kind of going down to the managers that are in charge of the teams. Who can you attract? What are the coaches you can bring to the country? Because the money is still way off and trying to be able to compete with other European countries. So we've got to put that to the side for 1 second and just see what can you do. And I think if you can get managers that are, tactically astute and they know how to set up their team to win, maybe it's not going to be beautiful flowing football, but if they know how to get a result and grind a result out there, there's ways to do that. And if you can get a big name manager or one with a reputation, that is going to help attract players to come to the Scottish League and to sign for those teams. So Steven Gerrard was a perfect example. Look at what he's been able to do with Rangers, taking them on an unbeaten run in the Europa League, which they just recently get knocked out of, and what he'd been able to do in the Scottish League, but he was given time. And that's, I think, something that the owners of the teams are going to have to look at. Going after big name players and maybe taking, if you look at the Premiership, for example, the Premier League, they've been signing players that were just recently retired, but they have a big reputation. If you look at Solskjaer, Lampard, Arteta, these are kind of young players, and I think that's what players these days are looking for, not the old school type. If you can get someone that's recently retired and got a big reputation, I think that's going to help, and that's maybe what Scottish teams should be looking at. A good example I would say is maybe someone like Robbie Keane. Robbie Keane, infamous player, really fantastic career, scored goals everywhere he went, played in Italy for a short period, played in the Premier League for years, and played at World Cups, even went to play LA Galaxy. So he's a vast experience, and he also has a great reputation. I think young players would love to play for him. And there's two teams in the SPL right now that are looking for coaches, and Celtic are still trying to sign their own, get a new manager in place. And I think if they're looking at a recently retired player, someone with a big reputation would be fantastic for them. And then you've also got Aberdeen, who just signed their new manager, Stephen Glass, young up-and-coming coach who, there's been a little bit of speculation of should he got that, but again, he's bringing in Scott Brown as a player coach, assistant manager. I do think that's a step in the right direction, as opposed to the old saying, the jobs for the boys, and the managers that always get the same jobs over and over again. I think just the young coaches is really what's going to make a big difference. And also just being completely honest as well, I think Scottish teams need to be realistic at this point. The Europa League is what they should be looking at for Europe. Getting to the Champions League group stage, awesome. Get the money in there. But trying to go past that, it's just going to be impossible. So if you can get the money in the group stage and then drop down with aiming to get to the final in the Europa League, and like I said, if you've got a manager that knows how to set up your team, try and get to the final. And you never know what's going to happen. I think the Europa League is something that the Scottish teams really should be realistically looking to try and compete in, get the reputation up there, and that's going to help, long-term for the league. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Do I think a European title is going to be going to a Scottish team anytime soon? Unlikely. It'd be great to see, but I think everyone has to agree that seeing Scottish teams compete in Europe, that's just really what everyone wants to see. Alright, well that's the end of episode 1 of Play On the Bosman Viewing. I hope you enjoyed the rambling. Give us your feedback if you agree or disagree, put it in the comment section below. And check out our channel, we've got lots of football videos on here now, so maybe find something else that you like. If you did enjoy this one, if you could thumbs it up, that'd be great. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.